Okay, so if you're watching this video, you are probably in your 20s, or either early or later 20s, and you're probably trying to figure out how I can become a millionaire. Obviously, that is the title of today's video. Now, I'm going to go over the traditional route, and I'm also going to go over a more modern route that you can take right now. So to be a millionaire, it's not easy. Obviously, only a few percentage of people ever get to having that much money or that much net worth. However, it is attainable if you're in your 20s. Even if you're in your 40s, you could do this as well, and even into your 50s as too. However, you have to remember that this is not an easy case. So the traditional route is to essentially save about 15% of your income, and let's say the average income is about $30,000. Now, you may be making less than that, you may be making more than that, but at 15%, you're essentially saving around about $4,500 a year. Now, that is going to take a very long time to be able to save up, and I'm not going to say save, I'm going to say invest. But the traditional route is to save, and that worked back 30 years ago because by saving they were making between 6 and 15% interest, and at that route or that amount of interest you could legitimately just save your money in a bank, and at $4,500 a year that could grow to a pretty substantial amount. And in fact, if you were to actually save $4,500 a year and invest and save and have interest of 6% from the age of 20 to the age of 60, you would have just under $800,000. By that time, you'd probably have a house that has appreciated, and you've got over $1 million net worth. Now, that worked probably 30 or 40 years ago, and that's probably what your parents are telling you to do right now, and that is to save your money. However, today, you are making basically 0% interest. If you're lucky, you can have a 0.5% interest in your bank account, or let's say a guaranteed investment account or whatever. And in that case, if you're getting a 0.5% per year, instead of having just under $800,000, you would instead have $205,000, which is not enough to retire at the age, it can be enough to retire at the age of 60. However, there's better ways of doing this. And let me explain. So in your 20s, you can take a lot of risk. Now, with a lot of risk, there's a lot of reward, but there's also a lot of failure. Now, if you're in your 20s, what I want you to try to do right now is to say, okay, well, I'm working a full-time job, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying to quit. What I am saying, though, is to find a couple of hobbies that you really, really enjoy. And by really creating or finding a hobby that you really enjoy, so for example, if you really liked collecting Hot Wheels, you could legitimately still continue to collect Hot Wheels. They are technically a collectible, and they do, in some cases, appreciate in value. So that is an investment in a way. However, you could make money off of that investment. So as an example, if you're the type of person who likes to collect Hot Wheels and keep them in the package and nice and pristine, you could buy a secondary one of that same car and open it up. Now, when you open it up, you can do an unboxing video. You don't even have to have your face on the video. You can just narrate over top of it. And then you can create an Instagram. You can create a Snapchat or whatever the younger kids are using these days. I don't use Snapchat, but I use Instagram. And then you can create a YouTube channel, and you can do unboxing videos, and you can also do racing videos and have those Hot Wheels race against each other. Now, some people who are watching this video probably say that seems like a stupid idea, but there are people actually making millions of dollars off of YouTube doing that right now. And you could do that as well, maybe not millions of dollars right away. It does take a very long time to build a YouTube channel, and I'm going to give you a very good example. When I was growing up, I was a massive basketball player. I got recruited. I was looked at as a player who was a potential for maybe a D2, maybe a D3 school, and that just never panned out due to injuries. I got my chance in the D League, again, injured, and I came back. But when I was in high school, I was training basketball players. And that was my actual part-time but full-time thing, where I would work at the YMCA and I would also train basketball players one-on-one at the YMCA, but under my own name. And then obviously I taught the basketball course there. And then from there, I was continuing to build, and I ended up thinking, well, there's these people, there's a story about one person making money on YouTube. This is before the whole monetization thing. And I was like, well, you know what? If I'm teaching kids to do this, I could do this as well. And so I started a YouTube channel called Basketball Coach Allen. Currently has 58,000 subscribers. And I slowly built that, and then I kind of got sidetracked, left the YMCA, got another job somewhere else, and I continued to build that part-time, and I was working a job. Well, I was putting probably about half of my income away that I was making at the job, and I was also putting away all of the money that I made on my YouTube channel and my basketball training together. I was investing it in the stock market, which is my next point. Invest in the stock market. This is a huge fact. So as an example, if you were to make minimum wage in Canada, you're making about $25,000 a year. So to our American friends who are working minimum wage down there, yes, this seems like a lot, but it's still not a living wage. If you can put away $1,000 a month, you end up putting away about $12,000 a year. Now, with that money that you are putting away, I'm not saying to save it, I'm saying to invest it, you could bring in about a 10% return on average. And that's what I've been kind of doing by investing in different companies like Tesla, but also investing heavily into Canadian bank stocks, the ones that generally grow. So over the last few years, National Bank, so NA.TO, was a massive grower for me, and it was paying around 5 to 6%. I think I was getting it around 5.5% at the time. So with me investing $12,000, I was appreciating $1,200, and then at 5%, let's call it 5.5% because that's what I was personally averaging between a couple of different banks, I was making an extra $600 a year. Now that doesn't seem like a lot. However, that $600 I was reinvesting in other bank stocks or other stocks. For example, Canadian National Railway, CNR, was another one that I really heavily invested in. And I don't invest in that right now, but I was. And that was only paying a 2% dividend, but it was the potential growth with the oil market. And back then, the oil market was going crazy. There was no way of getting oil out of the middle of Canada, which there still is no way of doing so because, of course, governments just don't want to build pipelines. But with that extra $600 a year, how I personally looked at it was by investing $12,000, I could make between about, let's call it $1,600 to $1,800 a year between appreciation as well as dividends. And then I would reinvest that money. And that's an extra $1,800. And when you start really looking at that, and if you're looking at that inside of a TFSA, which up here in Canada is a tax-free savings account, you can actually invest in that. That appreciation, that dividend is tax-free. That is over a month's income, 1 month's income, to be able to save and invest. Now, when you start looking at that from the age of 20 to the age of 30, in theory, without having all of the appreciation, compound interest, that kind of stuff, you now have, on the side, after 10 years, it's about 10 months worth of income coming back to you from your investments from 10 years worth of work. So now you're 30 years old. You have now 10 months of income from your investments Now, this is income that you would have been making the same amount at a regular job. And then what you can do is, if you were building your hobby, which was my YouTube channel, you can then leave a business and go full-time on your business, which then has the ability to grow even faster. See, I made a massive mistake when I was working that job. My mistake was leaving too late. I was able to save up, and I shouldn't say save up, invest. I was able to invest 2 years worth of income with obviously appreciation and everything. I had 2 years worth of income, and I was receiving back about a half a year in dividends, a half a year of income every year of dividends. Half a year of income that I would be making at a job coming back to me as dividends. Tax-free because it was in a TFSA. At that point, I was starting to say to myself, well, my business is making me $2,000 a month. Why am I still working? So what I should have done is I should have actually left earlier. And I didn't. And that was my mistake. And that's going to be my message to you today. Is if you've got a year's worth of income and you've got residual income coming in from your business that you've built from a hobby, and you have investment income also coming in, leave. Leave the job. Because then you can build your business much faster. That's my mistake. However, that's something that I wanted to teach you today. And that is that to invest your money in your 20s, invest not just necessarily in stocks. You can go a little bit riskier into stuff like Tesla, and you can go a little bit more riskier into Bitcoin if you feel like that's something that you want to chase. And that's not something I personally chase, but I know a lot of people who have and been very successful with it. I decided instead of chasing Bitcoin, I personally chased marijuana stocks in Canada because, of course, those ballooned up, and I was kind of successful. I was playing CGC, which is now weed, WEED, on the stock market, and I was able to buy at $2, sell at $5, buy at $3, sell at $7, and I was doing kind of like I wouldn't call it day trades, but it was more like weekly trades, and I was doing that inside of a margin account because you don't want to do risky stuff in a TFSA, because then you lose that amount that you can actually put in. Kind of, it's a long, I've already explained this in another video. It's a really long explanation as to why, but if you have a loss in a margin account, it's actually a tax write-off, so that's why you would do riskier things in a margin account or in a cash account. But either way, that was my mistake, and I didn't leave early enough. However, invest your money, invest as much as you can in your 20s. Don't just invest in the stock market, invest in yourself. Invest into trying to build whatever business you're trying to build. Build a hobby into a business. Everyone has a hobby, whether it be hockey, football, soccer, basketball, Hot Wheels, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, whatever it is, video games. Build a hobby around it. Find a way of monetizing it, whether you're monetized on YouTube yet or not. And you don't have to chase YouTube. You could do anything. You could literally just have a website and have your home address as your office and basically say, hey, I'm teaching video games. I'm teaching kids how to play video games. You go out to their house, you charge $50 an hour, and you teach that kid how to play whatever video game that you're good at. There's so many different ways of making money. There's so many different ways of not working minimum wage. Think about it. If you're going to do a service, teaching something, you can teach at $50 an hour. That is the going rate. Personal trainers are $50. Basketball trainers are $50. Football trainers, soccer, video game trainers that I talked to in the States are $50 an hour. That is essentially 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours at a regular job. If you can get 2 or 3 clients a day, you are making off like a amazing person. And invest half that amount of money if you can, because if you're still living at home, then you can. And if you can do that, then you can easily become a millionaire in your 30s. Because it's not just about how much money and cash you have. Your net worth is also how much that company makes. So depending on who you ask, a YouTube channel, for example, my business, is about $50,000 a year on YouTube revenue. Now, technically speaking, depending on who you ask, at $50,000 per year, you could have a 5 or 10x multiple on that money, or on that account, or your business, I should say. I'm losing my mind from all this talking. But that, to me, now technically, depending on who you ask, could be worth, my net worth right now, just in my YouTube channels alone, are between $250,000 and $500,000. Now, even though that is a net worth and that's not actual cash, and you would probably not want to sell your YouTube channels if you're making $50,000 a year off of it, that's still the underlying asset of what you own. I hope this is making sense. I hope that this has helped you. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.